Welcome to another great episode of Transformed and Renewed. Listen, if this is your first time checking us out, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. That way you can stay up to date with the latest content. And if you are returning, welcome back. We have a great episode. We're going to be talking about how to manage high blood pressure. And this topic came about because I had a family member won't disclose too much information, but basically had an episode that was related to high blood pressure. And I think this is one of the many common occurrences, at least in the United States. Now, I know in other countries this can also occur, but this is one of the many what is known as a silent killer because you may not even notice any issues when it comes to high blood pressure. But I want you to realize that over time, if you are doing certain activities or you're engaging in certain habits and you're not really managing those habits well or not even really being accountable, it can be, again, one of those silent killers. And when you're thinking that you're doing something that you're usually doing, whether it's out walking, talking with your family, eating dinner, it can then strike you in many different ways, whether it's a stroke, heart attack, heart failure, any other number of occurrences that can come from having high blood pressure. But what is high blood pressure? So you do have what is known as two types of blood pressure readings. So if you ever went to the doctor, your physician, and they ever want to take your blood pressure reading, usually they are taking two numbers. One is known as a systolic number. This is going to be the upper reading, and then you have the diastolic number. This is going to be the lower reading. Okay. So usually with the systolic number, you're looking at something that's about 120 or less, okay, mmHg. And then when it comes to the diastolic number, you're looking at a number that is less than 80. Anything over there, you are getting into warning or either dangerous territory. But typically, anything that's 140 or higher is known as high blood pressure, aka known as hypertension. So, why is high blood pressure so bad? You probably heard many people talk about high blood pressure or hypertension. So this is basically in your body, your blood is pretty much going through a cycle. So it's getting pumped into your heart as you breathe in, you breathe out, blood is flowing in and out, creating more oxygen for you to breathe, getting fresh air. And it's almost like a manufacturing facility inside of your body. But what happens when you have high blood pressure or there is activity that is causing a lot of blood to be pumped at once? And so let's think about this. Think about a manufacturing facility that is operating high speed, nonstop for hours at a time, not minutes, but hours. Now, this is your body. If you ever had high blood pressure or someone who has it, the body is basically pumping blood all of the time. And what happens is you can start to weaken your heart as well as the tissues, organs in your body. And over time, because so much blood has pumped, it's almost like you're wearing down the system inside of your body. And so that is what can happen when it comes to high blood pressure. Your blood pressure has been elevated so long, and to be honest, you may not have even noticed it. May not have even been any warning signs, but this is what can happen if you are not managing it well. And what are some of the causes of high blood pressure? Well, a common one is unhealthy eating. When you're just eating a lot of junk food, or it may not even be junk food, it could be foods that are not whole original. So it's a lot of ultra processed foods or foods that contain a lot of added ingredients. Okay. And what happens is most of the times is that these foods do not contain enough of the nutrients that you need. And so if you contain a lot of foods that are processed, likely, and this is a strong likely, but I know that you're likely going to be uh, intaking a lot of sodium, sugar, fat, and or all three. And so usually when it comes to sodium, most people don't really track it, but that is again how this can lead to a silent killer if you're not managing your sodium intake. So you're just eating on a daily basis and you're not really tracking, okay, I ate this much sodium, so I need to offset it by drinking some water, by exercising. That's not really the case for most people. So when it comes down to how this can start to activate this cycle, you can imagine if you are oblivious to tracking your sodium intake, how much fat that you're getting in a day, or even your sugar intake. A lot of these factors combined over time, if they are not managed well, can lead to your blood pressure increasing and increasing, and until one day you start to feel lightheaded and you start to feel some symptoms like you don't know what's going on, or someone around you who may be dealing with high blood pressure may not know what's going on, and all of a sudden they just pass out. And so this is just one of the many ways. Not exercising, getting enough steps in, because this can also help with burning some of that sodium out of your body, or even flushing it. If you were to drink enough water as well as exercise, you can actually flush the sodium out of your urine or just through your sweat. But these are just some factors that many people don't typically engage in. How I know this, because the statistics continue to increase year over year when it comes to the incidence level of individuals who had high blood pressure. Because if you had a stroke, had a heart attack, had heart failure, or etc., that is likely related to having high blood pressure. So again, some of the ways that you can actually manage this, and again, these are just some of the common ways, not a comprehensive list, but these are just some of the common ways. So you can imagine, and I'm sure you're likely thinking, if you ever had a family member, or even if you had a relative, you could have had a coworker who had an episode of the stroke. And again, I had a family member, won't disclose it, had a recent episode of a stroke. And long story short, all is well, better. But there are some things in place that people don't have to get to this state to have a stroke or even have a heart failure. But unfortunately, sometimes the best lessons, and I'm not saying that this is a best lesson, but sometimes lessons come through some unfortunate situations. And so when it comes to this, we want to keep in mind, okay, let me really understand how I can really prevent this, because most people don't ever think that it can happen to them. It could be having a stroke, having high blood pressure, having cancer, having any number of the common diseases. And most people just don't think about that. But when you realize, like, hey, I could be that person, you start to really have a different mindset and you start to implement some of these strategies that can actually offset you having high blood pressure. So, what are those? Well, when it comes to nutrition, you definitely want to focus on getting those fruits and vegetables. Listen, if you think protein or meats are the powerhouse, fruits and vegetables are a true powerhouse. I mean, a true, because they contain nutrients that you likely don't really understand how a lot of these nutrients work in your body from some of the fruits and vegetables. But I can guarantee you from my own experience, these can provide you with so many benefits, because they not only contain nutrients, but they contain phytochemicals. They contain basically medicinal properties that you may not even realize can actually offset some diseases that you could have had. Now, think about that. You could have had some diseases, but because you say, you know what, let me really focus on some whole foods, that actually helped. Okay, helped you to avoid getting a diagnosis or even having some health issues. And again, most people may not take this to heart or really see that this is a serious problem, but I'm just going to remind you, when it comes down to it, Your physician is going to pretty much tell you the same thing. You need to really improve your diet. Usually they'll probably keep it at that. Some may actually go in depth. But what I'm saying is you need to improve your diet by including a good dose of fruits and vegetables as well as some whole grains. Okay. Want to get that whole grain, some good complex carbs into your body because these also contain some nutrients. And again, these are some of the things that can actually offset you having high blood pressure, even some of the symptoms or the episodes. And I will say that these are not any episodes that anyone will want to deal with. Next is when it comes down to you want to get into exercise. I know I repeat this a lot, but it is very important that you begin exercising. Walking is a good way, but walking up an incline is even better. Okay. So walking straight across or just walking on a level playing field, that's good. But you can power walk, you can walk up an incline. This is going to make your body work a little bit more, as well as it's going to help increase your heart rate in a good way. And so these are some things that you can actually do that can actually help again with avoiding having high blood pressure. Another thing that you can actually do is really have a schedule when it comes to winding down. If you're used to being on the phone all of the time, you may want to consider putting the phone down and really thinking about, you know what, let me get a routine that helps me to relax because again, high blood pressure can also stem from stress. Okay. So if you have a lot of stress or just things on your mind, it's important that you really find some activities that you can do that can actually help you to really wind down, especially if you're about to go to sleep or go to bed, or even if you're just waking up, you really want to get your mind in a good place and really think about some good things. For me, I like to read scripture, like to play a word game here and there, and it usually helps to keep my mind just very focused in a good way. And these are just some things that I do. I even put on some essential oils, and so usually I like to really get my mind in a good way. And again, these are just some of the ways that can actually help with avoiding having high blood pressure. Of course, again, you always want to focus on your nutrition, making sure that you are not just putting anything in your mouth, people. I know it's very tempting, but there is a such thing known as opportunity cost. So if you decide to eat something, what is it costing you? Okay. So with that, these are some of the ways that you can actually avoid having high blood pressure because again, having some of these episodes are not good as well as financially good. They are not good. Even if you have insurance, it's just not good. If you can avoid it, that is going to be the best thing that you can do. And again, make sure that you are really focusing on yourself. Sometimes people may think, you know what, I'm young. I don't really have to worry about having high blood pressure. And that could be far from the truth. Anybody, it really does not matter what age. If you have been dealing with elevated high blood pressure, it can happen to you. If you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, it can happen to you. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. It can happen to you. And so you want to make sure that you are not just overlooking this. You want to make sure that you are really doing what you can. And how can you do that? Well, I just shared it with you. Making sure that you're focusing on getting those fruits and vegetables into your diet, and also make sure that you are minimizing or or at least limiting the amount of sodium intake that you're getting, fats and sugar, or at least when I refer to sugars, added sugar. So if you're getting over 20% of added sugars, usually I probably say over 15%, but usually over 20, you are pretty much in that warning zone. And you want to really start to refocus like, why am I getting this much sugar if it's not from fruits or if it's from complex carbs? So also, want to make sure that you're exercising. So, doing some resistance training, it's wonderful. Cardio, yes. Walking, let's do it. Do all of these because it is just going to help you. And then again, we talked about getting into lifestyle. So, when you're about to go to sleep, do you typically get on your phone and browse? Are you just taking in whatever you see? Because a lot of times that can actually raise up your blood pressure and even stress when you start to think about world events or just things that you've seen. It can really start to trigger like your your subconscious. Okay, you don't even realize it, and so it's important that you do implement some good tactics in place because again, you only have one life to live, and so it's very important that you manage how you are really inputting certain things into your body. So to wrap up, if you enjoyed this, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And also let me know if you like this content. If this could help you, especially as we talked about high blood pressure, feel free to share it with someone. Again, you may know someone who may have had high blood pressure, dealing with stress, or even someone who may have dealt with an episode, whether it was a stroke, heart failure, etc. You can share this video with them because again, having the knowledge behind this can also help to prevent another episode that you may not even know could occur in the other person, but more so for even yourself. Because again, most people don't know or are even unaware of that they are this close to having a heart attack or having a health complication due to high blood pressure. So again, if you enjoyed this segment, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel at Robotic 1212. And also make sure you like and comment on this video because I appreciate your feedback. Okay. And make sure that you are joining us Thursdays because we just share information like this. Yes, typically every Thursdays. Here and there, usually if there is an emergency, I may not be out, but usually for the most part every Thursday of the year, or at least every Thursday of this year, we have been providing you with content that you can actually take, apply, use however you feel. You can use it to your advantage because, again, we want to see you at your best health. So, again, if you like this content, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button, follow us. And again, I hope that you enjoy this content. And until next time, I will talk with you later.